More on all of this. Joining me now exclusively is Congressman Adam Schiff, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, who is leading the impeachment inquiry. Welcome, Mr. Chairman, this morning. And I do want to start with this raid on Baghdadi that left Baghdadi killed. You were not told. Was Nancy Pelosi given any sort of heads up about this?
My understanding is that she wasn't. You know, a couple of things. First of all, good riddance. This was a bloodthirsty killer. To the degree that he retained operational control of ISIS, it's an operational success. It's a symbolic victory. He had the blood of thousands and thousands of people on his hands, including many Americans and American journalists. So this is a great day. A ruthless killer has been brought to justice. Not the end of ISIS by any means, and we've had some recent serious setbacks with the release of over 100 ISIS fighters. That struggle is going to have to go on, made more difficult by the fact that we have betrayed the Kurds and withdrawn our forces from part of Syria, but nonetheless an important victory against this brutal killer. In terms of notifying the Gang of Eight, that wasn't done. Look, the reason to notify the Gang of Eight is frankly more important if things go wrong. You know, the president said it was dangerous flying in. The Russians could have shot down American planes.
And the Gang of Eight was told about the bin Laden raid.
That's my understanding. I wasn't part of the Gang of Eight at that time, but that's my understanding. But had this escalated, had something gone wrong, had we gotten into a firefight with the Russians, it's to the administration's advantage to be able to say, we informed Congress we were going in, they were aware of the risks, we at least gave them the chance to provide feedback. That wasn't done here. I think that's a mistake, but let's not lose sight of the fact it was a success. And a ruthless killer has been taken off the battlefield.
But still concerned about those troops coming out?
Absolutely. No, I think it's a disastrous mistake to betray the Kurds this way. I think it just improves the Russian position in the Middle East, something they desperately want. I vehemently disagree with what the president said today about, oh, the Russians loved having us there. That's simply not true, not even remotely
I'm not sure
true.
what he was thanking the Russians for, but...
But more than that, the idea that we would pull our forces away from this vital ally, the Kurds, that we've fought with, died by our side, and now we're sending our troops back in to protect oil, so we'll betray an ally, but we'll go back in to protect the oil. That sickens me, frankly. And I think, as you could see from so many of the troops that have had to pull out and abandon their allies, they're sickened by the president's decision as well.
And I want to move on to these investigations, and I want to start with a new one. The Justice Department has shifted its review of the 2016 Russia probe to what they call a criminal investigation. You've said that you have had, quote, profound concerns that the move means that Attorney General William Barr's Justice Department has become what you call a vehicle for President Trump's political revenge. What makes you draw that conclusion?
Well, if these reports are correct, and now Bill Barr's Justice Department is doing a criminal investigation of people who properly looked into Russian interference in our election, in the FBI or in the intelligence agencies, it means that Bill Barr, on the president's behalf, is weaponizing the Justice Department to go after the president's enemies. I served for years, I don't anymore, on a commission that would help emerging democracies. And we would always inform the parliamentarians in these democracies, when you win an election, you don't seek to just prosecute the losing side. But this is what Bill Barr is seeking to do. He is demonstrating once again that he is merely a tool of the president's hand, not the representative of the American people.
But the prosecutor running the investigation, John Durham, is a very well-respected prosecutor. Why not just let the investigation run its course?
Well, first of all, we have an inspector general who is an independent body who is doing an investigation that's near conclusion. So there's been no public explanation for why this needs to be a criminal probe. But look, you can assign good people.
Would you accept the results of such an investigation?
Well, I was going to say, you can assign good people to do an illegitimate investigation. You can assign good people to investigate the president's political rivals. It doesn't mean that the investigation is any less tainted. This is tainted because of the motivation, which is a political one, to serve the president's political interests.
Okay, you have no evidence of that yet whatsoever, however.
Well, the evidence, I think, is pretty clear. The president has been calling for the Justice Department to investigate Comey, to investigate Clapper, to investigate anyone who stood in his way. And now what is Bill Barr doing? He's doing an investigation of, a criminal investigation of some of the people responsible for this probe. So you can, I think, connect one dot to another.
Okay, let's move on to your investigation and impeachment. Senator Lindsey Graham introduced a resolution condemning the impeachment process, and he called for the House to hold a vote to formalize the inquiry, allowing President Trump to call witnesses, give subpoena power to House Republicans. Let's listen to what he said.
All I'm asking is give Donald Trump the same rights as Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton had when it comes to impeachment. Any impeachment vote based on this process, to me, is illegitimate, is unconstitutional, and should be dismissed in the Senate without a trial.
And why not move forward with that request at this point?
Well, you know, this is poor timing for Lindsey Graham, because on the heels of his saying he was going to introduce this bill, the court just ruled that his arguments essentially have no merit, that the House of Representatives can proceed as it has with an impeachment inquiry that has been authorized by our leadership, that no vote on the House floor is necessary. So there's no merit to Lindsey Graham's argument. I think what we're seeing really is Lindsey Graham trying to respond to the devastating testimony that's come out from Ambassador Taylor and others, from Mick Mulvaney's own admission that not only was this White House meeting that Ukraine sought with the president withheld, but the military aid itself was withheld as a way of pressuring Ukraine to do these two political investigations that the president believed would help his re-election campaign. Lindsey Graham doesn't want to talk about that. Mitch
well, we
McConnell
know there's some historical
precedents
with Clinton and with Nixon.
And on those precedents, it's important to realize, and Lindsey doesn't want to talk about this either, in both of those prior impeachments, there were lengthy, closed-door investigations, fact-finding before grand juries, in both Nixon and in Clinton, that we didn't have here. And why? Because Bill Barr wouldn't authorize a criminal investigation into the president's misconduct vis-a-vis Ukraine. That's why we're having to do this.
Two quick things, if you can. What's the timeline here? When do you expect public hearings? And do you believe John Bolton is important to this, and will he testify?
We will be doing public hearings, and I think we'll be doing them soon.
Soon, in a couple of weeks, before Thanksgiving?
You know, I don't want to give precise timing because, in part, we're struggling with the White House's continuing efforts to obstruct our investigation, to obstruct witnesses coming in. My guess is they're going to fight us having John Bolton in, for example. John Bolton is a very important witness. We already know from the testimony of others that this is someone who's concerned that people in the State Department, Ambassador Sondland and others, Mulvaney, were cooking up a drug deal, and by that he meant a corrupt deal involving withholding a White House meeting, or perhaps the withholding of aid as well, for these political purposes. So obviously he has very relevant information, and we do want him to come in and testify.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us, Chairman Schiff.